Hey, what is up guys, I'm KBHD here, and I was in New York this morning for a Motorola event for their new flagship smartphones. So these are my quick first impressions of them, as I got to spend a little bit of time with them, and they're actually really interesting smartphones. So, the main new device you need to know about is the Moto X Style 2015. It's a refreshed Moto X for this year, and there really wasn't a whole lot wrong with last year's Moto X, but there are plenty of changes for this one. It's like the Nexus 6 and the 2014 Moto X got together, had a baby, and then attached a piece of metal to the back of it. I don't know, that's all I got. But really, this new Moto X reminds me a lot of the Nexus 6 in the hand in a lot of ways. And I use the Nexus 6 for months, so in the hand it really does feel similar and familiar with the big 5.7-inch Quad HD display and the slightly curved glass at the edges and the big curved sloping back. It just screams Nexus 6 to me. You can change the material of the back, of course, through Moto Maker, and there will be plenty of choices, and you will also be able to change the color of that metal strip in the center, so you can get just the right accent color for your look. And that bump on the back, yes, there's a little dimple. It returns for the Moto X. Every Moto X has had a sort of awesome dimple, so I'm glad to see that one there. And the Moto X has, on paper, pretty killer specs, alright? Are you ready? Are you sitting down? Have a listen to this list. Okay, Snapdragon 808 6-core chip inside, which has had no problems in any other devices. 3 gigabytes of RAM. 64 gigabytes of storage, plus an optional microSD card slot for up to 128 more gigabytes. A 3000 milliamp hour battery fit inside this curved back. Super fast turbocharging, which they claim is the fastest in any phone, give you something like 10 hours of charge in 15 minutes plugged in. A 5.7-inch Quad HD LCD display, which is about 520 pixels per inch, and it's big, but with really thin bezels, so the whole phone should fit in the same footprint as something like an iPhone 6 Plus, so it's not insanely huge. Stereo front-facing speakers, unlike the single one on the last year's Moto X, so magnificent, loud, crispy audio when watching videos, listening to music, gaming, all that. A brand new, totally revamped 21 megapixel camera on the back with a f2 aperture, dual LED flash, and of course capable of shooting some crispy 4K video. Throw in 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.1, and yes, it has NFC, looking at you OnePlus. And all of the hardware here is paired with a near stock Android experience in the software, so it's tailored to give a few improvements here and there to add function, but also allow for quick updates, so hopefully this phone will be getting Android M pretty early. And so, I mean, all of this is really classic Motorola. On one hand, not really surprised that this lineup is so solid, all starting at just $399. That is a super competitive price. But at the same time, you gotta hand it to them. Like, it's a pretty incredible thing. Looking at something like this, I think it's something I definitely want in my pocket. Now, just seeing the numbers on paper is nice, that's one thing, but I do still have some concerns naturally. Obviously, number one, that camera. It's no secret that Motorola has struggled with the camera in their flagships in past years. They've made improvements, obviously, but I'm not sure anyone would go out and say, the Moto X or the Droid Turbo is anywhere near as good as the top flagship smartphone cameras out here now. So Motorola claims that this new camera is a whole new ballgame, and that this, early reviews from DxOMark put it in the top 3 of all smartphone cameras. Well, I read that review, and I'll link it in the description if you want to also, and I played with it in person here at the event, gazing at its 21 megapixels of glory, and I'm still not totally convinced. Obviously, it's a make-or-break feature for a lot of people, so once I get to spend a lot more time with this phone, the camera is definitely something I'm going to have to spend a lot of time with and thoroughly test. Also, up front is a 5 megapixel wide-angle selfie camera, and yes, that's a front-facing flash. Another concern for me on this phone is the size. The phone has gotten a lot bigger. It definitely feels bigger in pretty much every way in the hand than the old Moto X. In fact, I wish I had the first gen Moto X here to show you just how much this phone has blown up in size over the years. It used to be focused on being small. And this is the first Moto X that actually, to me, feels like it's going to be a two-handed device for a lot of people versus one hand. It's going to look huge in a store next to a Galaxy S6 or even an LG G4. But you know what? Past that, I'm pretty pumped for when this thing comes out in September. It's a competitively priced, obviously really good looking phone in a lot of ways, so it'll get some attention. And I'm always a fan of the near stock Android feel. It always seems to have the, buttery smooth performance, and also Moto Assist and Moto Gestures are still there and still useful. Now you can double chop the phone to get the LED light to light up for a flashlight. And of course, there's the always reliable double twist to open the camera app, and a whole bunch of stuff like that, much, much more. All these useful features from the last Moto X can be turned on for viewing notifications, getting automatic voice assistance, etc., stuff like that. Also, there's been a little bit of confusion about the versions of this phone that exist, so if you or if anyone you know is confused about that, go ahead and link them to this point in the video. Alright, ready? We have 3 phones: the Moto X Style, the Moto X Pure Edition, and the Moto X Play. The Moto X Style is a flagship coming to the US that we just talked about. It looks great. The Moto X Pure Edition is the same thing, but unlocked, no contract, and sold directly to the consumer, and that works with LTE bands from basically every carrier. So nothing really pure or different about that experience, just no carriers involved. Pop a SIM card in and go. Same price. And then the Moto X Play is actually a different phone that's never coming to the US, but it'll cost $100 less, have a smaller 5.5-inch 1080p display, Snapdragon 615, 2 gigs of RAM, and a huge 3,630 mAh battery. Would have loved to see this huge battery in some other phones, but it is what it is. So there you have it. These are my impressions of Motorola's new hardware. Feel free to leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and see if you can guess what camera this video was shot on. Thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you in the next one. Peace.